All right, War Owl. What do you have for me? The truth about Counter-Strike 2. Let's hear it.
People are missing what Counter-Strike 2 actually is, and it is absolutely not their fault. But do not worry, friends, the War Owl is here to make the complex understandable. When the limited test first came out and everybody got to see Counter-Strike 2, it just looked like Global Offensive. You got the same guns, the same gameplay, the same map, but it's actually a completely new game. It just doesn't look like it right now. The name is confusing. It's the 5th main game in the series, but it's called 2. In my opinion, they should have just called it Counter-Strike and set it up to be the definitive Counter-Strike game. By the way, the War Owl plushie is available for 1 more week and then it's gone forever. Check out the link in the description. Normally when Valve makes a new engine and they want to ship it, they launch it with a new Half-Life game. They did it with Half-Life and Gold Source. They did it with Half-Life 2 and Source. They didn't really do that this time. The first game was Dota 2 that was ported over to the Source 2 engine. I guess you could say that Half-Life Alyx is that game. After shipping Half-Life Alyx, Valve started work on this. CS2 has been the focus of Valve's game development for the past 3 years. This and Neon Prime. So there's been 3 eras of Valve games. The Gold Source era, the Source era, and this is the Source 2 era. So everything from this point forward is going to be made on Source 2. Why did Valve take the time and effort to make the same game over again with Counter-Strike 2? Well, Global Offensive was originally made to be a console port of Counter-Strike Source on the PlayStation and Xbox. It was meant to be cross-platform play with
That's exactly why Counter-Strike Go, when it came out, was so fucking bad. That is exactly why CSGO was so bad. When that shit came, dude, I don't know if many of you guys played CSGO when it came out in beta. It was fucking terrible. It was fucking awful. And that's exactly why, what he just said right there, CSGO was trying to be the console Counter-Strike. It was, dude, it was bad. It was bad. Like, Counter-Strike Go's launch was atrocious. And it's crazy to think how it turned around. It's so weird, because usually games that are bad are just bad, but they turned it around. They did.
PC. Now I know what you're thinking. What an awful idea. Thank goodness they didn't go that direction. Valve didn't even originally make it. It was made by a company from the ground up called Hidden Path Entertainment, who up to that point had made a tower defense game. It was a pretty good tower defense game though. There are still remnants of this horrible idea. The buy menu is a wheel so that controller players can buy the weapons instead of a menu like every other game. There's a command that flips the player 180 degrees so that controller players can look behind them. If you think anyone would play Counter-Strike on a controller, you really don't understand what Counter-Strike is. I don't think Valve really understood Counter-Strike until maybe within the last decade. At a certain point, the decision was...
I don't think they understood what Counter-Strike was until the past, like, fucking 4 years, probably. Straight up.
Made to make Global Offensive a real boy, and Valve Software took over development and they turned it into what we've been playing for the last 10 years, and in my opinion, they did an extremely good job. I was there 3,000 years ago when Global Offensive was really, really bad. I saw the potential, so did they. Counter-Strike good now. It's like Global Offensive is a house that's been converted from an old textile mill. Over the years, as things have fallen apart, it's been held together with copious amounts of duct tape. Here's where we gotta use the words I learned in college. Man, I'm so happy I got my degree. It's been really helpful in my career of playing video games mildly well. There's something in software development called technical debt. When you gotta work on something, you can either do it quickly or you can do it right. If you choose to do it quickly, you get technical debt. It's the future cost of choosing the quick.
That's so weird. Chris was literally just talking about this. We literally had a discussion about technical debt like 2 days ago, I think, on stream.
An easy route. Now, I am not a secret Valve developer, despite being correct about absolutely everything about everything. I cannot see the code. Okay, it's been leaked. Everybody's seen the code. But I feel very confident in saying that Global Offensive has built up a lot of technical debt over the years. Making a completely new game erases all of that technical debt. It's doing the right thing. It's not doing the quick thing. It took them 3 years. It allows them to create a base for future development. It's tearing down that old house and building a completely new one in a better better zip code. It'll be faster and easier for them to fix bugs and make new stuff. Clearly they saw the potential with Counter-Strike and they're really putting all their eggs into it this time. Counter-Strike 2 has the potential to be far bigger than Global Offensive ever was, and I think over the next few months, we're gonna see some crazy stuff. Listen, if TF2 gets ported over to Source 2, I will eat my Bills hat. After playing nothing but Dust 2 for the last 3 weeks and going over everything in the game, I have a good idea of the philosophy, nay, the paradigm that Valve is using to make this game, and I'm very excited. I've seen criticism about the game being noob-friendly. There's an indicator on the minimap that shows you where enemy players can hear your footsteps. This takes away some of the game sense that takes years to develop. The smokes are colored based on which team threw them, so that you can tell if it's a defensive or an offensive smoke. One-way smokes are no longer possible. These make the game easier for new players to pick it up and get into. It's giving more...
Okay, the one-way smoke, not really. The one-way smoke doesn't really matter that much. No good or bad. Like, every single person can argue that the one-way smokes were just terrible. They were just bad. Everybody wanted it fixed. And it's fixed, thank God. Nobody wanted that.
Information to the player through context. And why the heck would that be a bad thing? Oh no, new players will be able to play the game? How horrible. The strength of Counter-Strike is that it's a simple game. You look at it, you understand what's going on. One guy's gotta shoot the other guy. It's not like a MOBA where a radioactive space frog shoots purple plasma rings to lower the enemy's bifurcation ratio. I never know what the hell is going on in those games, but it's probably because I'm stupid. I like when you point the thing at the guy and you click and he dies. But beneath the simplicity of Counter-Strike is a depth of skill, strategy, and teamwork that requires one to devote their entire life to the game in order to master. The controls are responsive. When you move the mouse, move the character, shoot the weapons, your avatar in the game is an extension of yourself. When you lose, you did something wrong and the other guy did something right. It feels really, really good to play. Valve is not trying to make the game easy or lower the skill ceiling at all. I really feel like they finally understand Counter-Strike, except if they are gonna add like hats. They're gonna add hats, aren't they? Guys, I think they're gonna add hats. Anyway, they're making changes to make the game more readable so that new players can get into the game and have the Counter-Strike experience without needing a PhD in applied ownage. The best example of this is the removal of the need for the developer console. In Global Offensive, you needed to go into your developer console, use aliases to bind the jump and throw commands to a single key in order to execute what's called a jump throw. These were ubiquitous. You needed to know how to do jump throws to play the game. On Dust 2, the Xbox smoke from Spawn is a jump throw. This is a smoke you absolutely needed to know how to throw. Because of how tick rates work, jump throws were not consistent between 64 tick and 128 tick. So you needed different lineups and proper competitive servers and the Valve matchmaking servers. This is a really bad thing. It's always been a big flaw with the game. Here's the solution. It is no longer possible to create a jump throw bind in Counter-Strike 2. I mean, you probably still can, but you get the point. What they've done is they've made jump throws into a skill check. You get 200 milliseconds to hit that skill check, and if you do hit it, they added a new grunting sound effect that plays when you successfully hit a jump throw. It's contextual information.
Play it.
It's reactive. It's really good.
Play
In
the
a
noise.
previous video, I said that they should add back the jump throw binds. I've changed my mind on this. The new solution is better game design. They've
Oh, absolutely it's better. Absolutely. They just fucking solved jump throws. Absolutely.
taken something that requires special wizard knowledge and messing around with the dev console, and they made it into a game mechanic that is available to all players simply by launching the client. And they created consistency between 64 tick and 128 tick, and they increased the skill ceiling by making it a skill check instead of simply pressing a button. Another example of this is clear decals. In Global Offensive, pretty much every competitive player used a clear decals bind. You'd bind the clear decals command to a key you used a lot, like W for walking forward. This would remove all...
I didn't really use clear decals in Go. I had the bind, but I didn't really use it. It's not like I bound it to something that constantly wipes decals or whatever. I set up the bind to middle mouse, like you'd click middle mouse, your scroll wheel. I just never used it. I literally never used it.
all the blood, gunshot, explosion effects around the map. It would increase invisibility, and it would give you an advantage. There was really no reason not to have this set up. Valve has removed the ability to do this, but what they've done is replace it. Now, the decals clear themselves over time so that they have contrast with the player. They've removed the need for a new player to mess with the dev console, and they've normalized the experience. Here's something you need to know about people. They always take the path of least resistance. If you tell a new player, in order to play the game properly, they gotta mess around with the dev console, that's a barrier to playing the game.
This is actually a good video because like everything he's saying is so true, and it's funny because it took them so long to realize what was wrong with Counter-Strike, but finally they figured it out.
It's very easy to just say, nah, and go play Call of Duty. The increased visibility in the game is another example of this. Enemy players have clear contrast with the environment. There's no more dark spots or hidey spots. In every other Counter-Strike game and a lot of other games, competitive players would fiddle with their monitor and their graphics card settings, increasing gamma and using the NVIDIA digital vibrance thing so that they could see players hiding in the shadows. Now, every player gets the same benefits of this simply by launching the game. If there is a bad game design decision, like having really dark shadowy areas, and players have found a solution to it, increasing the gamma, then the game developers should fix the bad game design so that the community solution is no longer needed.
Tarkov.
That is exactly what they've done. Instead of fighting against the community and saying, you can't do this and you can't do that, it's so much better to look at what the community is doing, think about why they're doing it, and then figure out a solution for what the community is solving. That's just the better way to do things. Here's where I draw the line. Competitive players play at a low-resolution 4:3 stretched in order to get a competitive advantage. It makes the game look like absolute dog crap. Should a new player have to make their game look horrible in order to play competitively, or should Valve remove the ability to play on 4:3 stretched so everybody has the same experience? To me, that is absolutely going too far, and I am sorry for giving them that idea. That would be Valve removing customization without adding a solution. So far, I'm happy with almost every change. The things I'm worried about are the movement. It just feels different. Do I have to get used to it? I don't know. I'm having trouble doing a duck jump, for crying out loud. A big part of Counter-Strike and the Counter-Strike community is KZ. It's movement. It's jumping around and air strafing and going up on the boxes and woo, look at me. I really hope that isn't just dead. You can still surf though. I'm pretty sure you can still surf. The other thing I don't like is they removed the alias and the execute commands. Now I use those a lot in my video recordings. I hope that's just a temporary thing. A lot of people have said that this hurts accessibility for disabled people, so they gotta come up with really clever setups in order to overcome their disability. The other thing I'm really worried about is the follow recoil command from my previous video. I played with
That shit is trash. Do not be worried about the follow recoil command. That shit is dog shit.
it for about a week now and finally switched back, as you can see from my footage. It does follow the same development paradigm we talked about earlier. How many new players do you think have launched Counter-Strike for the first time, shot the gun and went, how come the bullets don't go where the crosshair go? Is the game broke? And then they just immediately uninstall the game. Follow recoil is the fix for that, but in my opinion, it changes the main feel of the game. I don't like anything that makes Counter-Strike not feel like Counter-Strike. I think the ideal way to play right now, if you want a power game, is to set up a bind toggle for follow recoil and turn it on when you're using weapons like the MAC-10 or the MP9. It gives you an advantage in prolonged sprays and weapons that you're going to be running gunning with. Personally, I think learning recoil control and getting a feel for each of the weapons is better game design. I like the consistent recoil patterns of Global Offensive compared to the previous games, the randomness of CS 1.6. Valorant tried to make a hybrid system that was more similar to 1.6. You had consistent recoil for the first few bullets, and then you had random patterns. The result of this is that players do not spray in that game, they only do burst firing. I like how it is in Global Offensive, how tap shooting, bursting, and spray, they all have their place. They're all useful depending on the context, and I really hope that's the big thing that they keep from Global Offensive. After a lot of soul searching, I had to really get beyond a lot of my elitist Counter-Strike pride crap that, you know, we all seem to have. I've changed my mind on a few things, and I'd like to have more changes in this new game. I want things to get shaken up a bit. It doesn't feel enough like it's a new game. It would have been cool to replace the M4A4 with the XM7 or the M249 with the XM250 and add a weapon with a similar role to the Guardian from Valorant, maybe an M14 as an alternative to the Galil and the FAMAS, maybe Attack 21 is an alternative to the op, but they ported over all the skins, so they had to keep all the same weapons. It kind of nerfs the uniqueness of the game. The other thing is, and I'm gonna be 100% honest here, I love Valve, but they're not good at marketing. They make the best possible product. They polish it, they innovate, and they think that's gonna be enough. Just because you make the better product does not mean that people are gonna buy it. Case in point, Artifact. Ask any collectible card game nerd. Artifact had the better gameplay. It was designed by the guy who made Magic the Gathering. It was sexy, it was polished, and it failed miserably for reasons outside of the gameplay. It was monetization, it was the marketing around that. I don't want to see that happen with Counter-Strike 2. So you know what? I'm gonna take on some of the responsibility myself. I'm gonna do some of the marketing. I'm not gonna get paid for it. I'm just doing it because I like the game. And I want people to experience what I experienced back when I was a kid and I went into my first 10-man of Counter-Strike. I was picked last on the team. I was not good, but it was one of my favorite gaming experiences of all time. There really is nothing like playing Counter-Strike. Maybe the 2 in Counter-Strike 2 stands for Dust 2, because that's the only map that they're gonna have. Thank you folks very much for watching. I'm the War Owl, and I still...
That was a good video. I mean, everything he said was 100% accurate. Literally every single thing in this video was accurate.